small shop owner has bought in the Santa or in any Raitu Bazaar.
एक ही जगह पे मिलके those type of plastics are known as thermosetting plastics. Comparison, there are 3 types:
up, down, right, left.
I am not inferior to anyone.
We are Clarus. We are top on the Everest. Congratulations.
I want to be a leader.
A very good afternoon, students. This is Laxmana Rao P, and I am going to talk about strategies for effective reading. Before we know what are the reading strategies, let us understand what do we mean by reading. Reading is understood as understanding the meaning of a particular text, but it is not just understanding the text, it includes many things. It is like watching a movie. When we watch a movie, we have to do so many things. Likewise, when we read, we need to do many things such as constructing meaning from the text. As we think that movie is directed by directors, it is also written by someone else. However, it is not only the director who creates meaning of a movie. We as viewers also create some kind of meaning from a movie. Likewise, when we read a text, it is not only the writer who creates meaning, we also tend to create different meanings of that particular text. In addition to that, we also relate what we know with what we are reading. Likewise, when we watch a movie, we also tend to link that particular movie with the movies that we have watched or the books that we have read, or some of ideas which are related to that particular text. In addition to this, people say that it is a guessing game. For example, we think that what is going to come next in the text. For example, when we think of Rudramadevi movie, we tend to relate it to the history topics. So, we are guessing what might be the content of that particular movie. Likewise, we also create some kind of guesses based on the title, based on the pictures that we have in that particular text, such kind of things. When we are guessing, we formulate some kind of hypothesis that it is going to be talk about some kind of history, and we also verify those hypotheses, verify those guesses. If they are right, we will be satisfied that whatever we guessed is right, and if it goes wrong, we will try to modify those hypotheses or guesses, and we create new hypotheses. So, what involves reading comprehension? Reading comprehension involves at least 4 variables, 4 aspects. The bubbles, the 3 blue bubbles that you see on the TV are those 3 factors, and another one which is highlighted in green, processing strategies, is another one. Let us talk one by one. Purpose. Our reading comprehension is influenced by the purpose of reading the text. For example, when we read a text, we read it for a certain purpose. For example, to answer multiple choice questions. When we want to answer only multiple choice questions, we do not need to worry about remembering that particular text. We answer those questions reading the text, and we leave the message or content there itself. But when we read for an examination or for an assignment, we try to keep those ideas, the content and examples in our mind, so that we will be able to reproduce in the examination. That is one. Another purpose is We also read for recreation, entertainment. For example, when we read a short story or a novel, we just read it for the sake of amusement, for the sake of happiness, for the sake of time consumption. So, we have different kinds of purposes. Based on the purpose of that particular text, we tend to create a sort of processing strategies. In addition to purpose, text is also going to influence the way we comprehend a particular text. For example, different kinds of texts are organized. For example, compare, contrast, cause and effect, different texts are there. When we read a particular text, we should be able to organize that particular text and try to guess what might be the content of that particular text. Another factor that might influence is schemata. Schemata is nothing but our previous knowledge of a particular topic. For example, if you are reading a passage on tigers, you might know many things about tigers either in your zoology chapter or somewhere else in the news or somewhere in your textbooks, or your parents might have talked about tigers. You have lot of information that something to do with tigers in your mind already. That is what we call schemata. So, when we are reading a passage on tigers, we tend to bring that particular information into our mind when we read that particular passage on tigers. So, based on the knowledge that we have about that particular content, we will be able to understand better. If we do not have any idea of the topic that we are reading on, it will be really tough for us to understand completely, because we do not know, we do not have any idea of that particular text. All these three factors once again will be shaped by processing strategies. For example, purpose, text and schemata, all these will play a crucial role in what kind of strategies that we choose in order to comprehend a particular text. For example, I talked about reading for an examination. When we read for an examination, we try to remember the ideas that are there in that particular text, and we will try to reproduce the same kind of ideas in a examination when we write an essay. But when we read it for something else like answering multiple choice questions, we do not worry about remembering those ideas. We just answer those multiple choice questions and we leave it there itself. So, our reading comprehension is basically influenced by 4 factors: the purpose that we are intending to establish, the text, the type of text that we are reading, and the knowledge that we have regarding that particular topic. All these 3 factors will be once again have an influence on the way we process the strategies. These strategies are also known as reading strategies. What are reading strategies? Reading strategies are the techniques that a reader or readers employ to conceive of and prepare for a reading task. For example, every reading will be done for a particular task, either it is for enjoyment or for completing an assignment or writing an examination or locating some specific information or getting an overall idea of that particular text. So, we will try to understand what we are expected to read and what are we going to establish after reading that particular text. So, in order to complete that particular task, we prepare ourselves to read, and all the strategies that we use to understand the text and prepare for the text can be called reading strategies. In addition to that, we also employ so many strategies to comprehend the meaning of that particular text, and we also try to create meaning, or we also try to construct meaning of that particular text. So, in order to construct or comprehend the meaning of a particular text, we employ different techniques, tactics, those can be called reading strategies. Additionally, we also try to identify the problems, prevent those problems and solve those problems when we read a particular text. For example, when we come across an unfamiliar word, when we read a text, what are we going to do? We are going to address that issue by either referring to a dictionary or by guessing the meaning from the context nearby. So, we will have all those strategies when we read effectively. And as I have already mentioned, we also use so many strategies to memorize the information that we have in that text. For example, when we read for an examination, we try to tabulate the information in our own understanding, or we try to write a summary of that particular text, and we tend to create a mind map. Such kind of things are done, and we will try to remember more. So, all these purposes will be established by employing those strategies. These are known as strategies, which will help us to read better and effectively. To make your job easy, I try to compare TSRTC and these reading strategies. There are 6 reading strategies that we have on the TV, on the display, and we have an emblem here, Telangana Rashtra Road Ravana Samstha, which can be said in English, Telangana State Road Transportation Corporation. So, what we need to do is, we need to just replace G with P, that is TSRTC. T stands for target analysis, P stands for preview, prepare and predict, S stands for solving problems, R stands for responding actions, T stands for think and feel, C stands for checking progress. As it is already given in Telugu, Basu Chakram Pragatiki Chihnam, we also need to compare these strategies as the indicators of effective reading or effective achievement. As bus wheels are indicators of development of any particular government, we need to think reading strategies as the indicators of development or achievement of a particular person in an academic examination or in a competitive examination. We will try to compare this with that of watching a movie. These strategies are also, these strategies can also be employed when we watch a movie. For example, target analysis. We try to analyze what kind of movie would you like to watch, whether it is going to be a comedy movie, or would you like to watch a romantic movie, or would you like to watch a cartoon movie. We will try to think of what kind of movies would you like to watch. Next, we will try to employ reading strategies such as preview, prepare and predict. For example, when we want to watch a movie, we will try to see the teaser or trailer, that is what we call preview. So, we will try to watch that, and if we are satisfied with that, we will go for that movie, otherwise we will not go for it. So, based on preview and preview, we will decide whether we should go for watching that movie or we should not. Then we will try to prepare for that movie. So, we will have how to get money and how to do things, how to go to that movie theater, all these things are known as preparing. Then we will predict based on the title and the director and the actors that we have in that particular movie, we will try to predict what might be the scenes, what might be the music, what might be the dialogue, such kind of things we will try to predict. And when we try to watch movie, we might have many problems. For example, we might not have a vehicle. So, how do we go? We go by walking, or we go by an auto, or what do we do? And if we do not have money for all of us, what are we going to do? We are going to borrow money from someone else, or do something else, so that we will get money, or we will ask parents to get money. Such kind of things will be known as solving problems. Responding actions. This is very important. When we watch a movie, and some people tend to respond so actively, when there is a fight going on, people say dishum, 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 and if there is a sweet nice music, we tend to tap our fingers or our feet, something we will do a kind of dancing. So, we are responding to the movie, and in addition to that, we think and feel. For example, when there is a sad situation in the movie, some people tend to shed tears as well, some people cry a lot. There are so many movies which are very, very sad, in the sense they arouse a lot of emotions which will be sad, and if it is something which is very funny, you will laugh at that. Like that, we also tend to employ all these strategies when we read. Lastly, checking progress. When we think of checking progress, we need to think of, for example, when we expected that movie will be really nice movie, and if we go to that movie and if we feel boredom in the interval itself we will come back out of the movie, because we checked whether we are able to understand, I mean whether we are able to get satisfaction from the movie or not. If we do not get satisfaction from that movie, we ignore that movie and we will come back even in the intermission itself. Likewise, we need to compare that reading experience with reading. For example, target analysis, we will try to analyze all these 6 components one by one each. First one is target analysis. What are we reading for? That we should be able to establish. Either we need to set a purpose why we are reading, or we need to understand the purpose by someone else. For example, it is not that always we establish our purpose or we set a purpose or we plan our purpose. Sometimes you will be asked to read and do some task. For example, in a competitive examination you will be given a passage and some reading comprehension questions. So, the purpose is set by someone else to measure your reading comprehension ability. So, you need to understand what might be the purpose of that particular person to test you. So, according to that you need to plan your reading strategies. So, if you set your purpose, you need to think of whether you are reading for completing an assignment, whether you are reading for recreation, for example spending time, or whether you are reading it to memorize information, so that you will be able to reproduce that information in the examination when you write final examinations, or whether you are reading it for a presentation in your classroom. What kind of purpose are we reading for? We need to establish before we start our reading. We have different purposes that we have in our mind. For example, skimming. We skim a particular text to get overall idea of a particular text. For example, when we want to learn something out of a text, we go to contents of a page and we look at what we are looking for. If we do not get that particular information in the contents, we ignore the textbook, and if we get a particular idea that we are searching for in that contents, we will go for that. So, it is skimming for general idea, what might be the idea that we get, that is what we call skimming. Scanning, for example, if you want to travel from one place to another place, there will be a timetable either in a bus station or a railway station. So, we will not read entire timetable or entire display that we have in that particular timetable list. We will search for example, now it is 3:30 or around. So, what train or what bus we have, at what time do we have? For example, at 4 we have a bus to our destination. So, we will look for that particular time only, we do not worry about either in the morning, after or in the evening or late night. So, we scan for the specific details of that particular information that we seek. So, when we scan, we neglect so much information nearby and we will focus on what we want to learn. That is one of the purposes. Another one is refreshment or recreation. As I told you, many of us read only to enjoy ourselves. For example, when we read a story, we tend to enjoy by reading it. It is only to time pass and to develop vocabulary or reading comprehension informally. So, many of us have the habit of reading novels, short stories, drama, such kind of things. We all read these things in order to enjoy the reading process. So, is it reading for is our reading meant for recreation or refreshment or something else? We need to decide that before we read. Next one is in-depth study. Why are we reading? For example, many scientists will do an in-depth study of that particular aspect. So, when they read, they go into the details, specific details of each and every aspect of that particular content. Are we reading like that? If we read like that, it takes so much time. We need to spend a lot of time on that particular text, as opposite to scanning. For example, when we want to scan a timetable, we will just glance a minute or half a minute and we will get that information that we are seeking for. But when we read for an in-depth study, we tend to focus a lot and we tend to consume a lot of time on that particular aspect, because we need to have an understanding of each and every aspect of that particular study. Next is knowledge building. Are we reading it to develop our knowledge so that we will have proper understanding about the particular content that we are reading for, or is it to enhance our understanding of a particular area of study. For example, you might be interested in physics and you want to learn more on that particular aspect. For example, your textbook contains some lessons on physics. If you want to learn more on that particular aspect, you read some references books that are available in your library. So, if you want to have an in-depth understanding of a particular subject, you tend to focus more time on that particular area, so that you will be able to develop your knowledge on that particular aspect. Next one is examination. Many of us think that we read only for examinations, but it is only one of the purposes that we have among here on the list. So, we need to read examinations, we need to read for examinations as well. When we read for examinations, we tend to focus on memorizing information. So, our focus is to memorize what we are reading. In doing so, we will tend to create a kind of mind maps, a kind of bar diagrams or a kind of diagrams, so that we will be able to keep those ideas in our memory, so that it will be easy for us to reproduce in the examinations. Another purpose include assignments. Sometimes teachers give us assignments so that we will complete those assignments in time. So, if we read it for assignments, we will try to focus on that particular topic and we read to complete that assignment. If we complete the assignment, we will forget those readings. So, if we complete that assignment, we will keep those that information in the assignment and we reproduce it to the teacher, submit it to the teacher. So, the teacher will give you some marks. So, these are some of the purposes, and it is not a complete list. We have different purposes as well, and you can add your purposes on your own. To tell you all those once again, to skim, we skim for general idea, to scan for specific information, to recreate ourselves and to refresh ourselves, we read a lot, to in-depth study, to develop in-depth study or to develop our knowledge, we read a lot, and we also read a lot for preparing for examinations. We also read to complete our assignments. These are some of the purposes. Do not think that these are all the purposes that we have. We may have more purposes as well. So, you are requested to add your purposes on your own. After target analysis, we need to go for preview, prepare and predict. This is the second pre-reading strategies that we have. We need to preview title, illustrations, tables, maps, bold letters, italics, first line of each paragraph, keywords which are highlighted, which might be highlighted or which might be bolded, topic sentence in each paragraph, surveying the organization of the particular text. If we do all these things, all these resources might not be available in each and every text that we read, but some of them will be definitely available. For example, title, we do not have any text without any title. So, we will have text definitely for every text that we read. So, based on that particular text, we need to understand what kind of information that we might get in that particular text. So, if we preview all these resources, we will be able to get some kind of information on that particular text, so that we will be trying to activate whatever we have in our mind. For example, if you find a text, if you read a text on tigers, you can think of what you know about tigers and you can relate the information that you have in your mind with the information that is going to be there in the text. If you are able to associate the ideas that you have in your mind and the ideas that we have in the text, you tend to remember it well. So, for that purpose, we need to preview all the resources that are available. Before we start reading, we need to think for a moment, so that we will be able to generate our own ideas on that particular text, rather than completely depending on the author. One of the phrases is highlighted over there in the screen, organization of the text. Organization of the text refers to how that particular text is organized. Is it for a comparison? When we compare similarities of two things, whether are we talking about the similarities between tiger and lion? That is what it means. contrast. When we talk about contrast, we try to bring in the differences between two things, the differences between lion and tiger. Cause and effect. Cause and effect means we talk about the causes of an effect. For example, what are the causes of pollution? Pollution is effect, and what might be the causes we will be thinking of. Argumentation, we try to develop arguments for or against a particular proposition. For example, is smoking establishing relationship or destroying relationship? We go for either they are establishing, smoking is going to establish relationships, how they are going to how smoking is going to establish relationship. If you want to say that it is going to destroy relationships, you need to argue for that. Narration, as I told you already, we read a lot of things for narration. For example, we read short stories, we read short novels, and we read some kind of dramas. All these things are known as narrative type of text. So, we generally read these things for enjoyment purpose. Next one is persuasion. We pursue a particular person to do a particular thing. For example, when you want to get something done by an authority, a person in authority, for example, your principal or someone, headmaster, you write a letter to persuade that particular person to complete a task, for example, providing something. So, you pursue the importance of that particular item that you are arguing for, so that the headmaster or principal will be convinced or persuaded by your words of expression, so that the task will be completed by the concerned. So, that is what we call persuasion. Whether it is a description, for example, description of something. If you want to describe an object, for example, a computer, you describe the physical attributes of that particular person. It looks like something, the color of or the shape of thing will be like this. You will be talking about color, size, shape of such kind of things. That is what we call description. Process report. Another one is process report. When we do scientific experiments, especially in your physics or chemistry or zoology or biology, you do a process and we need to report that process, how it went on from first minute to last minute. We need to report that process, that is what we call process report. Another kind of text is advertisement. In advertisement, once again, the companies pursued customers to purchase their product. So, it will have a different kind of organization of the text. Next one is recipe. Many TV programs are organized on the basis of recipe. For example, Ma Uri Vantakalu, Ma Intlo, Me Intlo, Ma TV, Ma Intlo, Me Vantakalu, itlanti programs. There are so many. So, we have these kind of programs which will give instructions to prepare something. They give directions to prepare something. For example, how to prepare chicken biryani or how to prepare veg biryani, such kind of things are given. So, based on these things, we will be able to identify what kind of text we are reading. If you have an awareness of all these kinds of text, it will be very easy for you to remember the text in your mind so effectively and for a long time. In the same preview, prepare and predict, we need to prepare ourselves to read. For example, we need to, based on the resources that are available, we will be able to generate some ideas that we have in our mind which are related to the text. So, we will think of what we know already and we will ask some questions, are they going to be answered or not. And we also think of the benefits of reading, what I am going to get after reading this, that should be once again thought over, and we need to motivate ourselves. When we read something, we need to motivate ourselves and we need to think of the benefits of reading. For example, so many successful people will try to motivate themselves to read when they are feeling boredom of reading a particular text. So, they motivate themselves to pursue a good career. So, they will try to motivate themselves and read a lot. We need to do all these things so that we will become an effective reader in our career. Next one is predict. Very important thing many of us do not do is predicting. Predicting is nothing but guessing what might be the ideas that are going to come in the particular text that we are going to read. Based on the resources like title,